Welcome to the Heroes of Reality podcast, a podcast about the game of life and the hero's journey we all experience. Let's jump in with our host, Dylan Watkins, as he introduces today's guest.
Welcome, young adventurers. Dylan here. And on today's podcast, I have Dmitri Leonov. He is the TranTech co-organizer. And for the last year, he's been deeply working on the Tile Patch. It is a biofeedback device that helps optimize your nervous system. I'm excited to talk about that, possibly some psychedelics, and many more things. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome my friend Dmitri. Hey, welcome, brother. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, I'm excited to go into this thing. So I'd love to first talk a little bit about what you do with transformative tech and what does that look like? And then we can talk a little bit about that biofeedback device. So with that being started, how'd you get involved in transformative tech in general?
Sure. Honestly, it started with me going to the conference, TranTech conference a few years ago. So TranTech is, for those who don't know, it's a global community of entrepreneurs and innovators and kind of ecosystem at the intersection of technology and kind of the inner well-being. So emotional well-being, mental well-being, wellness, and so on. So we're using kind of cutting-edge technologies for human thriving, essentially. And our mission is to bring 1 billion people into a permanent state of wellness in the next 10 years.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And one thing I'll note is that this podcast is live. So if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, or any of those types of things, and we'll get to them as we flow through this conversation. So the plan is to transform 1 billion lives using transformative technology. What in terms of what are some things about, besides your own device, what are areas of the transformative tech world that really excites you?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot. There's essentially the way to think about it is most companies and just nonprofit and organizations and people focus on, if you look at the Maslow pyramid, right? So it starts with the physiological needs, and then kind of like having a roof over your head, and then it goes into kind of more inner stuff. So self connection, then it goes into self-actualization, and then self-transcendence. And so the kind of the historical framework has been, hey, we have to go one step at a time. We have to take care of our physiological needs, make sure we have food, then make sure we have home, and kind of go up like this, and have the luxury of working on self-transcendence and self-actualization. And so what the research has found over the last years is that it's much better if it's the other way around. If we start from the top and we're happy and working on stuff that we're passionate about, living our purpose, then everything else just kind of flows much easier. And so the technologies that we're focusing on are, there's just so much kind of neuro technology around. Around emotional stress and anxiety is a really big topic. Mental health has been obviously a big problem for a long time, but it became a really big problem over this last year. And there's some really cool technologies around just in that space. I think one of the things that excites me personally, I like shortcuts, and there's really cool tech around just kind of stimulating, creating meditative states, right? Yeah. So you no longer have to sit in the cave for 20 years. Now you can just put on a VR headset, right? And get there very quickly.
Yeah. So you're talking about what I call it, like Westerns or white man's meditation, in the sense of like you can use technology to aid and assist you, especially if you're talking about being able to, since you take over the whole senses, then it's easier to get into that flow state. Now, have you done things like is there anything about specific VRs, or are you talking about more like float tanks, or what about it? Which technology do you really like it to really hack that system? Because I also agree, hacking and making the hard stuff easier is a wonderful gift to give to the world.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. It depends. And I think there's kind of a multitude of technologies for different people for what you're looking for. I mean, there's one that's really cool where you can basically shoot a ultrasound into like a specific part of your spine, and it basically puts you into a nirvana-like state, right? Just immediately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff like that, but at the end of the day, there's it. The way I see it is, our goal is to. It's going to sound very woo-woo, but sorry.
Let's do it.
Is to vibrate in alignment with your whatever you want to call it, with your higher self, whatever it is. And so whatever puts you into that state of alignment and resonance, that's what works. For some people, it's sitting in the cave for 20 years. For some people, it's going to Peru and doing psychedelics. It really it depends.
All are wonderful journeys, but I think the Buddha said like what was it, like, why walk miles when the ferry costs a nickel? Something like that. It's if you can take that shortcut to get the same results, it seems like that would be a better use of time. So leveraging technology.
It is better use of time, but I think there's another way to look at it. I think some people would frown upon that, the whole idea of shortcut or whatever you want to call it. I think here's the real issue. Right now, we're in a kind of a crisis situation with a lot of things, right? Everything is crisis/opportunity, right? So if everything is speeding up, everything is much people are, mental health is a huge problem. There's all sorts of issues that we're facing with. Technology is really just one of the definitions of technology I really like is it's something that makes technology is what makes something scarce abundant. Right? So if we can bring 1 billion people into the state, and effectively, we kind of have this opportunity and almost a obligation to do it. So yes, the crisis is bigger than ever. The opportunity is also bigger than ever, and we have the technology to do it. And and now one of the beautiful things that happened over this last year is now we're all much closer together. Right? So before, I used to organize events in LA, which were really cool, and it was really fun to do it. And now we do events for everyone across the world. So it's just there's pros and cons to everything.
100%. Yeah, that's so with the transformative technologies. Are there any areas? So if there's like young entrepreneurs out there that really wanted to get in the space, they want to make the world a better place, and they want to make $1 billion, and the next Elon Musk. What would be the areas you would suggest for them to look into, or sciences or technologies for them to explore? Are there ones that you think are particularly hot or show a lot of promise?
That's a good question. I have to think about that one. I think the right answer to that question is it's whatever interests you personally. There's no shortage of opportunities and directions to go in, but it's about what resonates with you personally, right? So I think it's really important to kind of find that your purpose, find what excites you, find what you're good at, very importantly, and work in that direction. I think that's a better angle to look at. I mean, there's really no shortage of from VR to neurostimulation to biofeedback. There's all sorts of stuff happening, and if you're looking to get into this space, go on our website. It's transformativetech.org. We actually have a really interesting research report that we just published, which talks about the financing and M&A activity and just general kind of structure of the space right now. There's a lot of really good data that will give you a lot of a really good start point.
Insights to where to go. Beautiful. So what about you? Can you talk to me a little bit about your journey? You have a biofeedback device, a tile patch that you've created. What was the inspiration for that? And talk to me a little bit about the creation of that.
So I actually didn't create it myself. It was created a few years ago by a very brilliant engineer in Italy named Fabio Fontana, and he spent quite a long time working on it. And so what we've done, what he did for the first few years until last year, when I got involved, is essentially the only way to use it would be through a doctor. So you would have to go to a doctor, get a prescription, and work on it, and work with the doctor. And so what we did is we kind of processized and streamlined the protocols, and allowed anybody around the world to just order it online, and with very simple kind of simplified directions, put it on and see the benefits immediately.
Got it. What was the technical hurdles for streamlining and processing it and getting it out from a prescription, something you'd have to get doctor's approval, to actually doing it? So talk to me about some of those threshold guardians and the journey you had to do to make that happen.
Yeah, so essentially what it is, it's a little, I'll show you. So it's a little patch. It's like coin sized, and what it is, it contains layers of nanocrystals. And so these nanocrystals are, what they do is they basically capture the heat from your body. So you place it on specific points on your body with a tape. So you just kind of, or Band-Aid or whatever works. And it kind of captures the heat from your body, and it reflects it back into your body as light. And it's a specific light of specific frequencies. So basically what it does is it combines light therapy with acupuncture. And so light therapy is a very well-researched form of medicine. Acupuncture is actually the most researched form of medicine. It has more studies than anything else on PubMed. And so we're just combining those two things. And so over those few years, it was a lot of trial and error. We looked at Chinese medicine protocols, acupuncture protocols for different things. Tried it with this. Again, adjusted. A lot of trial and error. Yeah. And then we've developed these protocols where anybody can put it on different points to achieve different effect. What's the really simplified version actually is. So I'd say probably like at least half or even two-thirds of the symptoms will get addressed just by placing it on 2 points, one kind of here and one on your spine. So just those 2 points take care of a lot of the symptoms or benefits. And then there's also specific points for different things, for sports performance and sports recovery. There's points for stress and anxiety. There's points for focus. You put them right here. There are points for different cleanses, right? For cleansing your liver or your kidney, and so on. So there's so the kind of the hurdle was around developing those protocols, and just kind of getting it out into the mainstream.
Got it. So it kind of looks like those kind of watch batteries. If anybody can't see it, it's about the size of a nickel or a quarter, a little thick. And so if I'm hearing you correctly, it's almost like acupuncture without the needle. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's acupuncture without the needle, but it's going to get a little woo-woo again. Sorry. Acupuncture actually is not really explained by modern medicine, right? The whole idea of meridians and circuits on the body is not what they teach in medical school, and so there's a bit of a leap of faith. But again, it's all proved by science and a ton of studies. But what this really is showing us is that when you take energy, which your heat from your body, and you convert it kind of like a mirror into light. And so light is it's some might say we are light, right? We are radiating light. We're radiating infrared energy all the time, right? The fact that this very, very faint light, when it's placed on specific points in your body, can have tremendous effects. We can immediately measure improvements in balance, range of motion, sports performance. And we have studies on all of this. It does really incredible things for patients with multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's or other neurological disorders. That people start talking who couldn't talk before. People start walking who couldn't walk before. It's really fascinating. But so it's acupuncture not just without the needle. It's acupuncture with light. And light is everything is vibration, right? Every matter, everything is a wave/particle. And so and there's really the difference between sound and light, for instance, is just frequency. So if you take the C note from the piano and move it up 41 octaves, it turns into light.
Mm.
And so it's and there's really, like, one of my favorite parts of segments of transformative tech is, I call it vibrational technologies. So it's technologies that have to do with sound, sound frequencies, vibration, actually physical vibration, and light. And so all of those things are basically a spectrum of frequencies, or electromagnetic is another one of them. And the fact that by playing, by just making a sound or by shining a light of a specific frequency on a certain part of your body can have a tremendous effect on just healing the body and putting it into balance, just says so much about the nature of reality, and how I personally believe that there is a fundamental misunderstanding in the common knowledge, right, in the mainstream, around the nature of reality and the nature of us, of the role we play in the reality, who we are. And there's things like this, like just the fact that you can shine a light to affect that kind of a change. It's it's one of the signals that's pointing to that misunderstanding. And I think correcting that misunderstanding is going to have a huge impact on our day-to-day life.
So yeah, it's funny because I'd put that as an out there thinker on the space and VR and all these other things that we're talking about. And until you experience a thing, then you don't really believe a thing until, but then you go through it. And so there's a piece of me that's like, I haven't done acupuncture. I've done chiropractor, and I know it works, and but before I was like, oh, that's total. It's fake. It's fake practice. But then I got it worked on, and several times I've been fixed from a chiropractor. I was like, oh, okay, so this clearly works. Can you talk to me just a little bit about the effects of, like, how long is a dose of this thing? What does it okay, do I have a migraine? I put it on for 5 minutes, and the migraine helps to go away. Like, and how does it compare to like a placebo? What is it like? Can you talk to me about some of these differences, just so I can get a little bit more, put some edges on these experiences?
Sure. Okay, so a couple things. So this thing works for 2.5 years. So one of the things that we've developed is a protocol around the timing. So if you put it on 24/7 right away, it's actually going to overwhelm you. And so what happens is there's a detox effect. So when you have when this light is emitted into your nervous system, it detoxifies your mitochondria. And so your mitochondria, and I don't want to get too technical, but your mitochondria basically has not toxin. It has NO. I forget what the term is. NO, which looks like oxygen molecule, and so it basically blocks your mitochondria from producing.
Oh, I seem to have lost you, Dmitri, for half a second. Oh, and he is gone. Looks like he's coming back in 3, 2, 1. And you're back. We just lost you for a half a beat. You were talking a little bit about your mitochondria, and basically this is a declassification of your mitochondria. And let's try to pick it up from there.
Nice. Well, yeah. So basically what happens is it pulls those toxins out of your cells. And so if you're constantly pulling it out of your cells without giving your body time to flush them out of your system, is going to build up those toxins in your blood and in your body. And so you can wear it, and it works for 2.5 years, but you have to ease into it. So that's one point.
What happens if you wear it too long? You say it shocks your system, or do you? It sounds like if you're cleaning out your mitochondria, you're basically getting more energy because you're having less friction to produce energy. Is that? I'm trying to wrap my head around.
That's one of the effects, right? So what would happen if you wear it all the time from the very beginning? Is you would just get all the toxins out, and your body wouldn't have time to flush them out. So it would create sometimes some people have a headache if they wear too much in the beginning. And so our protocol is for the first week you wear it only 4 hours a day, second week 8 hours a day, then 12 hours, and then 24/7. so you have to kind of ease into it, and that's one of the trial and error things that we've learned. Well, so as far as placebo, we have I think 16 studies at this point. A couple of them are double-blind, placebo-controlled, and so we did a placebo-controlled study with multiple sclerosis population for over 1 year, and it was amazing to see that. And we've learned, for example, one of the things that came out of that study was that there is an emotional wellness effect that we didn't expect. So that's how we realized that it has an effect on your emotional balance. And then
we say emotional wellness. Are you talking like overall calmness? Does it lower anxiety? Does it decrease in depression, or as
all of the above? So specifically, people report less stress and anxiety.
Okay.
But just happiness is
it's a happiness quiz. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's great. It's a happiness pill. That's beautiful. So what's your goal with this whole, like, you're right now, talk to me about where you're at and then where you want to go with this.
Sure. Well, so we're working on the next generation, which is, I can't talk about quite yet, but it's combining several aspects of in a wearable device. So I had a few experiences over the years, but I had a really profound experience one time, which showed me very clearly that all of our problems, physical, mental, emotional, all of our problems, stem from lack of alignment with that kind of flow, with a higher self, whatever you want to call that. And by putting ourselves into resonance with that, automatically eliminates all the problems, and just kind of everything is much easier and better. So that's kind of that's what really excites me, is how can we do that? How can we be more in alignment, in resonance with our flow? And I think specifically just literally vibrating with light, sound, and vibration is like the shortest shortcut you can imagine to get there.
Sure. So you had an experience where you realize that all of our problems come from being misaligned with our higher self, and so how can we get realigned? And one way is through these devices. One, I want to check. So that sounds like an experience that was facilitated via plant medicine of some kind, by the way. Oddly enough, I don't need to dive into the details on that, but I just want to touch on that. Besides that obvious path, how can you tell if you're misaligned with your higher self? What are things that someone can do to find out if they are misaligned?
Okay, the easiest way, I think, is to see how you feel. If you feel good, that's a good sign. If you feel bad, that's not a good sign. That means something is wrong. I think that's the easiest barometer. That I stole that answer from someone, but
that's all we do. We are humans. We constantly lift ideas from the other people, and it's part of all the things that we're doing, right? So that's totally fair and valid, and I honor you for acknowledging that. But you're looking at that. But let's talk about that. So I'm feeling bad. I go, okay, I'm feeling bad. Something's misaligned. Do you think there's a process you think about? Do you meditate? Do you journal? What is it? Is there any other steps that someone can do besides checking in and going, I feel like crap? I mean, because you could feel like crap if you ate like a whole bunch of donuts and a giant Starbucks coffee, which
is also a sign, right? Like that probably shouldn't be doing that. If you
Oh, go ahead, please.
So I mean, meditation and like for me, journaling is a really big one. I use it for different things, but that really helps, and it also helps to align and to kind of crystallize and choose the direction to take. That's for me personally. But yeah, whatever.
Do you have journaling prompts? Is there something that you have? Like, is there a way, like, do you just like roll out of bed and start writing? Do you have like are you prompted for it? Or what's your process of journaling look like? Can you show me?
Yeah. Let me see. So I mean, I do a at the very least a weekly thing, which is focusing on the key wins and learnings. So just like, what did I learn this week? What were the wins this week? And then kind of what's my priority for the following week. So I don't actually do it every day, but like at the very least weekly, and more, certainly more often than that. And then the prompt that I do the most probably is, I call it the vision. I also stole this from someone. Vision squared, as I like to call it. So the first one is just like, what's my vision for what would I like to? What's my ideal life look like? Then the second page or second prompt is, okay, so that's now, let's assume that's happened. What's the vision beyond that? And that's a really cool one, because now you're like, oh shit, okay, now I can really get creative. The one after that is, what's preventing me from going there? Like what are the blocks? The next one is, who do I need to become to create that vision? Right? So it starts, I really believe it starts from an internal state. So who am I? And then what is the external world matches the internal world, right? Not the other way around.
Yeah.
And last is kind of, what are the actual actions that I can take to speed that up.
That's cool. I recently heard, I forget where, there was somebody that said that like the secret isn't about like what you want most you get. Like, it's more about the universe is a mirror, and you reflect back, the mirror reflecting back to you. So in order for you to get what you want, you need to become a certain person. You can't just go, I really want it. Like, I want to be super fit and I want Dunkin' Donuts, for example. You have to have the identity to match the outcome. And so I really like that, because it's a good thing. It's like, what's your vision, ideal life? What's beyond that? Which is cool, because it makes you expand what you think is possible. Then what's prevented me? So you identify your roadblocks, and then you basically have you align with your identity and go, who do I need to become to get that vision? And then it's like, okay, that's who I need to become. And then you get really clear on that tactical, practical steps of, this is the step I need to do to get there, to whether get the identity or get the outcome or go past the roadblocks.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that's also really interesting about this is it's helpful to kind of like, one of my goals for the Q1 of this year was to vibrate like a multimillionaire, to feel like a multimillionaire, right? And so in that, I really thought about it. It's like, what does that really feel like? And it was a pretty specific set of feelings and things that I would do, and I think, and so when first comes the inner state, first comes the feeling, and then everything else kind of matches it. And I have to tell you, like, my external experiences really did match that. So it really works.
Sometimes. It sometimes works, right? What do I need to do to vibrate like a millionaire? It's what I can't help but to, like, my mind goes slightly sexual every time you keep like talking about these vibration things, and so gotta call that out right now. But the vibrations, I mean, you talked about this misconception. They feel like that we have a misconception of reality. So do you have certain truths that you live by? Like we're all vibrations, we're all energy, we're all like, what are your ground truths for reality?
Okay. So and this comes from another experience that I had, but this one, like, I validated, resonated with a lot.
Sure.
So I really believe, or have experienced, that in the center of it all, there is kind of like this ball of light, and that ball of light feels a lot like what love feels like in our heart. And so it kind of resonates in all directions and all dimensions. And what we call the universe is so like all the stars, all this stuff that we see is at the very bottom of this kind of vibrational spectrum. And so in the center, there's let's call it source / destination. and it just like radiates in all directions, and that thing is basically us, right? And this is where the idea about the misalignment came from. I get a really clear sense that because that thing in the center is also us, you and me and everyone watching, that thing is constantly trying to help us. It's constantly just physically doing everything it can to have all of our wishes come true. And to steal someone else's words, that's the source / destination immediately becomes the vibrational equivalent of whatever it is we are looking for. And this is kind of there's a lot of Eastern kind of mystic traditions that say what you seek is seeking you. Mm-hmm. And it's not a metaphor. It's actually very, very literal. It's literally becomes what you want, but it becomes that in a vibrational sense. It becomes a kind of a blueprint, an energetic blueprint of what you're looking for. And so our only real job is to align with that energy, because the amount of energy that is kind of coming down from those other dimensions it just dwarfs what we conceive as energy on here. And so just by simply aligning with that, we can make all of our problems go away and just achieve what we want to achieve much, much, much faster. And it's easier said than done. So I'm still here. Do as I say, not as I do.
It's easy to, not easy, simple. Things that are simple aren't always easy. So, for example, diet and exercise. Like, how do you say super fit? Just diet and exercise, forever. and that is the challenge, right? It's a simple truth. It's just difficult to achieve. And so, is there other ways that you're like? Because we talked about journaling as one of the methods for creating alignment. Do you have daily practices? Do you have daily routines for alignment? Like, because it seems like this is like a fundamental way that you run your life. And so I'd be curious about how do you keep in those alignments, and how do you really how do you put it out there? I'm trying to understand that a little bit more. And we'll jump to some other topics, but I am fascinated by this because there is we're talking about the basis of reality and what we're all connected to, and it's a really fascinating topic. So I'd love to explore just kind of a little bit more of like your mindset and how you keep alignment.
Dude, I don't think there's nothing more important or interesting than this. So I'm happy to talk about it as long as you want.
I love it.
So I have a morning. There's a couple of different versions of this thing, but the one that I kind of modified slightly is called 6-phase meditation, and it's whatever. So there's a few. It's not a meditation in the sense that you're listening. It's a meditation where you're like creating stuff in your mind. So I guess it is a meditation. So it starts with forgiveness. Self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others. Then it goes into gratitude. So gratitude is a critical piece. And then so for me, one of the things that I kind of take throughout the day is whatever happens, I do my very best to see it as call it thank God that happened. It's like whatever happens, thank God that happened. And then as soon as you say that, then it opens my mind into seeing, well, how is it a thing? Like something terrible just happened. How is it a thank God that happened moment? But right away, your mindset shifts, everything shifts, and then reality starts to shift as well. So that's a really powerful one.
Thank God that happened.
And then it goes into kind of visualizing, so becoming clear on what it is that I want to accomplish, and then that's where journaling comes in handy as well. So just being clear on like what are my top 3 for this year, and how do I need to break it down? And then there's a thing I learned. There's a really great course called 45 Days to Awakening. So one of the founders of TransStack, Jeffrey Martin, came up with this and said, this is super interesting. So if you're listening to this, go and I think it might be I think they're doing the last course ever right now. Anyway, they started doing the research like 15 years ago on happy people, people who are happy, and also people who kind of self-describe themselves as enlightened or awakened, whatever. And they tried to find commonalities, like how did they get there? What are they following? Any kind of religious background? What's the difference? And what they found is it can be from all over the place. There's no real correlation among anything. The one thing they have in common is they always have this underlying sense of okayness. Like everything is always okay. No matter what it is, everything's fine. So that's like really the only thing they have in common. And there's different levels of that, stages of awakening. But so one of the things I learned from that course was it's called a projection exercise, where every morning you're just envisioning yourself being like celebrating something, being super happy. And you kind of like envision your friends and family being super happy for you, and just like really good things. And you don't have to be specific about what you're happy about, just that celebratory attitude. So that's an important one. And then the next one is super woo-woo. I kind of like check in with my team, if that makes any sense.
I just want to be on the same page with you. So we had forgiveness, gratitude, visualization, which you just described a bit about the okayness and everything being okay. Now you said number 4 was you check in with your team. So you're talking about while you're mentally going through the 6 phases meditation, on step number 4, you are mentally, with your eyes closed, checking in with your team through the. Is that what you're talking about?
Not the team that I work with. It's like I have let's say imaginary group of things, people, whatever that are on my team, and so I kind of like check in with them in my head. Let's say that.
It sounds totally woo woo, but I'm picking up what you're putting down. So you have in your mind's eye, you have, and we all have. I think you can call them spirit guardians. You can call them imaginary people that oversee you. They could be your ancestors. They could be basically whatever you feel spirit forms have got your back. You check with them and go, hey, we on track? And then from some imaginary cloud, they look down at you and go, thumbs up, bro. And then you keep going. And that's, I totally understand it. And let me ask you a question about that. What do you feel that gives you by going through that? Like, what does that feel in terms of like after you do that, like, has there ever been times where they give you a thumbs down and they're like, you're not on track, dude, go left? Like, has there been?
That's a good question. I mean, it's not like, I'm not asking for like thumbs up, thumbs down. It's more of like just what it gives me is an understanding that, like, first of all, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And there's something else going on bigger than like the room I'm in. And it's and everything is like really, really way more. Everything is way cooler than we were raised to believe.
Okay. All right. So you do your spirit team check-in. We'll call it that, for lack of a better term. That's number 4. After you that, what's number 5?
Then I just do like a quick exercise, push-ups, squats, and crunches. Then I do my smoothie, my magic smoothie, and then just kind of the last one is the hardest. I try to just do like 30 minutes of focused work on for me, it's the most important thing is prioritization and just like strategizing about what needs to get done, and then getting it done.
Got it. So I'm going to combine together the smoothie and the exercise, because otherwise that would make 7 for me. So, okay. Well, that's good. Well, you're, if you talk about, I think a lot of people, like, when you first go into an area of like, I want to be a millionaire or a billionaire, I want to be super rich, right? They ask for tactics. But people that go farther down the path, they really understand a lot of it's mindset, right? Like you ask for strategy, and then you get these tactics, and then there's these mental blocks that they then have to deal with and unpack. So instead of trying to go from that direction, you go from the opposite direction. Is you get the right mindset, which is forgiveness, gratitude, getting clear on what you want, getting that kind of that higher level permission, and then you get physical, which kind of primes the body. You get healthy, so you get the nutrients. And then you put in that real, which basically all of that preps you up for that one thing of how do I get clarity on the action I need to take, whether today, this week, this month, to be able to move forward. And in that mindset, you can actually achieve greater clarity that you can't really get at a different level. Like if you're really upset and you just fought with your significant other or whatever the thing might be, very hard to strategically plan in that mindset. So I think. And it's a really I think I could see it as a powerful system. How long have you been doing this for?
It's been different variations of it for, I don't know, handful of years.
Handful of years. Okay, cool.
But yeah, it's a moving target, you know.
Yeah, of course. You probably grab some things. You hear a person. It's like that sounds good. You bolt it into the system. Yeah, you're making it your own, which is what we do. So that's wonderful. Are there? That sounds. I mean, that's really, really powerful. Is there? Last question on this one topic. Besides the 6-phase meditation, is there anything else that you find to be a powerful part of your life, your daily routine that you would recommend, or you find to be the most impactful in your life?
It's the thank God that happened, hands down. It's the hardest one. Well, that's not necessarily true. They're all kind of hard to some extent, but no. Basically all events are meaningless, right?
Mm-hmm.
We assign meaning to them, and so it sounds overly positive, or like positivity is not. I don't want to be one of those people. But there's a lot to be said about just mindset and just framing, right? So it's about framing things in the best way possible, because we're constantly creating the narrative, creating the story of our life, right?
Yeah.
And also, you know, one of the things that, and this I'm kind of applying this more recently, but it's not really it's not as actionable, but it's a thing I learned recently, which is cool. Are you familiar with reality transurfing?
Reality transurfing? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not familiar with reality.
Check it out. It's a book by this Russian guy. It's like several hundred pages book. It's very, very verbose. But
is there an audiobook version of that?
Even that is very long. But yeah, no, there's a lot of actually really good summaries. But so it's the way that the shortest way I've understood it is really cool. Basically, whatever you want to achieve, think of it as picking something up from your mailbox. So let's say you have a goal that you want to accomplish. Think of it as you have to be excited. You don't want to be too excited. You don't want to be too anxious. You don't want to. It's there. It's in your mailbox. All you have to do is walk there, one foot in front of the other, open the mailbox, grab the thing, and go back home. There's nothing like magical. There's nothing crazy happening. It's nothing to be excited about. It's just there. That's and so that kind of a mentality has been really helpful.
There's a terminology I heard in the science space called the optimal amount of arousal, otherwise known as the inverted U, and that's what that sounds like. Is there's a peak where it's like it serves you and then it doesn't serve you. There's another thing in terms of the I've done a lot of hackathons, like content creation weekends where you get together and you build stuff. And one of them was Bomber's Peak. Bomber's Peak is the same thing but with alcohol and other types of drugs, where there is an optimal amount that serves you and then you quickly fall off the edge and drop. So it sounds like this reality transurfing says there's an optimal amount of arousal that if you come in with a certain amount of intention and focus and commitment and energy, you're more likely to receive that gift from the universe's mailbox. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, again, it's not. There is okay, and my number one favorite book recommendation is The Theory of Everything by Jed McKenna. And essentially, and this is it's just a really, really simple kind of lowest common denominator explanation for what's going on. And basically what it comes down to is there is only one thing, and that one thing is you. The consciousness, right? Awareness, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And so there's no universe. Like the universe is you. Like you're giving yourself a gift, right? You're stopping yourself from it. So if you see it that way, it kind of becomes a little bit less separated and more cohesive.
Do you believe we live in the Matrix? Do you believe that we're plugged into the system somehow?
Yeah, I don't think it's a matrix in a sense. Like it's not a it's not a computer like zeros and ones. I guess so. Yeah, I absolutely believe that it's a simulation because the one consciousness. If it's just consciousness by itself, it's just bored all day. It's like there's nothing for it to do, right? So it has to create the simulation for it to perceive something and just to have another point of view and break itself up into you and me and everything else. So yeah, in that sense, it is a simulation.
So as in, I've heard something similar, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but it's something along the lines that we are all a part of the same universal consciousness, and it broke itself off so that it could mirror reflect itself to each other. And it could basically create its own self. And when we die or whatever, we merge with the great consciousness back all together into reality. And we are basically giving ourselves meaning by relating to ourselves and something to that degree. It's out there, but there is one thing I've been really curious about is like there is a thing that like at the base of everything is love. Right, we're all like at the base of everything is love, and there's this weird thing where we all feel connected in a strange way that we can't communicate. And whenever you go, there's only like really two primal feelings. There's fear, which is usually the thing stopping the love, and so is the thought behind that being the fact that we are all creating this universal love that we're giving to each other in some way, shape, or form. I'm very fascinated by that thought. And so when you're out of alignment, you seem to be out of resonance with loving yourself, right? There's something there. Do you have any thoughts on like self-love and reflection? And is there ways that you, is there anything that you feel that you are, like, do you have this is going to be a weird statement. Do you have a purpose? Do you feel that you have a certain way to be of service? Is there a personal mission that you have? Yeah. What's that?
Sure. Well, so yeah. And I do want to get back to the love question also.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry. I went a little bit on the deep end. I was like, ooh, so let's do both, and feel free to grab the reins and run with it.
All right. No, so I believe my personal mission is to for starting with myself, but then help as many people as I can find to vibrate, understand the nature of reality, and also to actually vibrate in alignment with that one thing. Actually, let's back up a step. Yeah, that was. I should have started with the first question. So in my experience, in that center of everything, the ball, the ball of light that people talk about when they die, right? The light that people go to. My experience, it was literally, it's love. It's literally love. It's not a metaphor. Like God is love, love is all there is, all of that stuff. It's not a metaphor. It's actually very literal. It's what everything is made of at its core. And then it kind of starts to turn into different forms of energy, but at the core, it is love. And so the really cool thing is that the love that we feel in our heart, like that is that one thing. That's the really cool coolest part about it. And I got to experience that, which in a really profound way that changed my life. But that's at the center of everything is that same thing that we feel when you love someone. It's just amazing. Well, and so I guess so my personal mission is I want to bring it into day-to-day experience for myself and for everyone else. And kind of integrate, so as somebody who's done psychedelics, integration is a really important part, right? So how do we integrate it into day-to-day life? And so for me, working with vibration and technology that allows vibration and resonance is really key. And so, okay, that's my answer.
Okay. Yeah, you can tell that the getting to the heart of matters. The energy tends to vibrate a little bit more radically because it's something that's very personal and deep, right? It gets very intense in the depths here. So there's a couple of things. One being, so it's talking about understanding the nature of reality and to vibrate with the resonant of source is the kind of the mission on do it for yourself and do it for others and create that resonance and find a place where you can actually do that. You said that you had an experience that fundamentally changed your life and gained this new perspective. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I'll just shortcut. It was 5-MeO. And I just suddenly felt all of existence in my heart. So like how I feel love in my heart, I just suddenly got a very clear understanding that everything that exists is there. So I did feel like, I don't want to, I don't want to sound too grandiose.
You say you felt like God? Is that it? You felt God is within you and you are all? So that sense of, and you're talking about there's DMT, 5-MeO DMT, right? And when you do that, you feel like you are, because at the end of things, whether you're doing 40 years of Zen or meditation, the ultimate emotion you have is a sense of unity, right? And so what you're talking about is the ultimate sense of unity, that you are everything and everything is you all in one. And that fundamentally changed your perspective. Now you come back into this reality. How do you take that and integrate that into your world? It's very difficult to walk around saying I am God and hitting people with lightning bolts, So how do you take that? How did that shift your actions? Is that what got you into the world of the biofeedback and the trans tech, or what shifts were made?
It was it took a while for it to integrate, and there was a few directions, but that ultimately what led to what I'm working on now. It's really like integration is such an important topic for everyone, and I have a lot of friends working in the psychedelic field, and like there's very growing space of like psychedelic technologies and psychedelic integration, and that's such an important piece. And I don't think anybody's figured it out quite yet. But there's we're getting close, and close every day. But yeah, so that's that's kind of what started it for me, and that's what I'm working to figure out.
How do you integrate it into a better life? That makes a lot of sense. Do you feel like there's a lot of people in like the transformative technology space that had some sort of psychedelic impression on them that have shifted their consciousness? There's a lot of.
I think so. So the things as transformative tech, as the organization, we actually are explicitly staying away from psychedelics.
Yeah.
There's a lot of psychedelic technologies, like for example VR, that it's like we're trying to create psychedelic experiences with technology, right? Because psychedelics is a difficult topic, right? Depending where you are in the world, right? Like in Silicon Valley, it's the coolest thing, but in China, it's not, right? You go to jail for a long time.
It's frowned upon.
Yeah. So it's and that's kind of the point is that we're trying, and so a lot of the people I know, and some really really fascinating scientists and technologists. And one of my favorites is he just turned 70. He started working with psychedelics in the 60s, and he's since then kind of developed, he's been focused on frequency and sound and light, and essentially how to like recreate that kind of an experience through technology, through vibration.
And virtual reality can do it. I mean, there's some amazing studies with, virtual reality can simulate a lot of the psychedelic experiences and senses of mysticism. You can have, there was some studies where they've done out-of-body experiences, where you can put on the headset and by tricking the brain through simulating, it makes you feel like your body's here through haptic senses, and then it pulls you out to where, long story short, you have almost like a bodysuit on that's creating haptic senses and touches, and then you can see that. And then in VR, they pull you back, so it basically forces your conscious to separate from your body perception, and it feels like you're floating above. And so you can literally get a sense of mysticism using VR technology by tricking the body to say, you are here with your haptic sense of vibration, and then it pulls the camera back in VR, and your brain's like, wait, I'm floating away from my body. And that feeling, you can still have that. I mean, however you get those senses of unity and love and disconnection and dissolving your ego and all that stuff is whatever means gets you there. The walking the thousands of miles or taking the ferry boat across the river, man, whatever works for you. Is it that? So I take it then you've had a number of experiences with virtual reality.
Yeah, not as many as I'd like, to be honest, but yeah, some.
Okay.
Well, do you know what that thing was called with the haptic suit? And
I'd have to look it up and get back to you. I read it in there was a medical book about VR. It's called VRX by Brandon Spiegel, and it's inside that book. I can't think of the name of the study, but if you go on that book, there's the one for you. Someone else on the podcast recommended the book to me, and then I went through it and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And so, but it was an out-of-body experience. VRX by Brandon Spiegel. He's over at the Cedar Sinai in LA. So.
Oh yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So that's super fascinating. What advice would you give to young people that are interested? We talked about looking into different texts and finding what they're into, but is there anything you would recommend to people, besides finding what they're into? Is there anything else like tactical and practical that they could get up and do right away to either level up their skills, get more ingrained with the technologies, or anything else?
Boy, that's a good question. I don't know. Sorry. Pass. No.
Join the transformative tech.
Well, I would say, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Just get into it, right? Because your chances. Okay. So like when I first got into the transformative tech space, my path was a little. So like I went to see a therapist after years of thinking I don't need a therapist. And that kind of like that was the first thing that opened things up. I was like, oh shit, I have a lot of stuff to work on. And then I developed a kind of a network of coaches for, kind of with a matching algorithm to match you with the right coach. So that thing led to then me building a chatbot, kind of like a coaching chatbot with different challenges that would guide you through and so on. And then one thing led to another. And so you never know what, and some people know exactly what they want to do right away. But for other people, it's a journey. And the thing is, it's a beautiful journey. One of my favorite things that I realized not long ago. So there is this kind of a story that we have that, if you believe in that kind of a thing. So we go through lifetimes and we evolve and we go through lessons and then we like reincarnate and we go through all these things and eventually we merge with source, with God, whatever it is. But then I realized that when you merge with that oneness, for real, not just through a psychedelic experience, but like for real, you realize that this experience that we're having now and like the whole journey is literally happening at the same time. There's no real time, right? Like it's all happening in parallel, right? And so we have this vision of some kind of like, especially I think men, we have this like goal. We have this thing that we're trying to reach, this goal, and even in the spiritual sense, we have this journey of merging with the oneness. But like the whole thing is literally happening in parallel. There's really no point to it, in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Other than just the journey is the point.
So then enjoy the journey, get into it. Don't beat yourself up if you're not at the place where you think you should be, because you don't know that this step takes you to the next step. Yes. And just by putting one step in front of the other, it will lead you to a place you weren't expecting. And from my understanding is, I just want to touch on something real quick before we start to wrap this up here. So you made a therapist matchmaking service that turned into a chatbot system that helps people with therapy?
It wasn't therapy. It was basically like guiding. I mean, that particular thing didn't really go anywhere, but it was a set of challenges. It's like, for instance, for a relationship. So it would kind of guide you through daily exercises that you would do. And then I also made kind of like a accountability buddy in a chatbot, and all that stuff. Like that piece is really easy. There's no real secret sauce there. But it's like that's a space that somebody should go and figure out, because AI and chatbots are it's not so cool anymore, but like it's untouched.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's beautiful. There you go. Now someone's got some insights where to go. Beautiful. Is there anything else you'd like to say or let people know about before you tell them how they can get a hold of you or find out more about what you do?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter. This is Dmitri, and Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm pretty public.
You have at Dmitri on Twitter?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a favor that a friend of mine. Kind of a funny story. So my friend was walking with a Twitter employee. I think it was at South by Southwest many years ago, and he like pulled him away from the street when the car was about to hit him. And so as a thank you, the Twitter employee like promised to do anything. And so I called in that favor from my friends, even though I didn't save the guy's life. But
wow. Okay. Moral of the story: just save people's lives and they'll owe you favors. There's a. I love that. Well, thank you, Dmitri. This has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you being here, and thanks for all the good work you do. And let me know as you progress on phase 2 of the towel patch. I'd love to learn more about that. And I think we're somewhat neighbors here, so I'd love to chat some more as we go through this.
For sure. Thanks, man.
All right, brother. Have a beautiful day, and I will catch you later. All right.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes of Reality podcast. Check out heroesofreality.com for more episodes. While you're there, you can also take the Heroes quiz to find out what kind of hero you are. Or, if you have a great story and want to be on the podcast, tell us why your hero's journey will inspire others. Thank you for listening. See you on the other side.